Okay, so this presentation is just about self-reliance and developing your own ability to back your personal judgments. And because it's tough being a leader, it's a lonely position. You've got to make unpopular decisions, and this chapter or this module should hopefully help you think about those more clearly and use your judgment to make sure that you do the right thing rather than what the most popular thing is. So, and I've been in this situation, so I know exactly how it feels. So I just want you to read the first page. I'll read it out if you're driving. He experienced a real reluctance in managing staff who were performing poorly. He went to considerable lengths to avoid conflict and tended to tolerate underperformance and sloppy work rather than address the issues with the relevant people. He feared managing people's performance would make him unpopular and imagined the disharmony and confrontation it would cause. His fear of being judged negatively meant he worked for longer hours to compensate for their underperformance. The solution was to ask himself before consulting with others was, what do I believe? He would then make his decisions on his inner convictions and communicate these in an honest, respectful and straightforward way. Now I would think if we did a poll of 100 leaders, I think probably at least 50% would say they struggle with that sort of conflict, tolerating underperformance, not addressing issues, fear of being unpopular and the disharmony the confrontation would cause, and ultimately working longer hours to make up for people's poor performance. So how do we avoid that cycle and get the people who are working for us to deliver their optimum? Well, they need to know. They need to know the truth and they need to have honest and open feedback. Self-reliance is at the heart of the emotional capitalist, involves two competencies. Self-reliance, you have the power to take decisions and make choices, and self-belief, the ability to have confidence in your judgment and willingness to take action. So self-reliance and self-belief are the two pillars for you to hold these difficult conversations. And your self-belief is obviously driven by your track record, the fact you've been appointed into a leadership position, and all the work you've put into your career so far to make you the leader that you are. And self-reliance is you're backing your own personal judgment. That's why people have given you the responsibility to be a leader. Self-reliance involves having confidence in your own judgment as a leader, being able to control where you devote your most productive and emotional energy. And again, this is a real challenge because you can spend a lot of time worrying what people think or thinking about the consequences of a particular decision. And it's tough because, you know, if I take rugby as a context, obviously you've got to make difficult selection decisions all the time on a weekly basis. And having that conversation and telling a player he's not going to get picked and the reasons why and dealing with the fallout of that decision is emotionally draining. But you've got to back your judgment and then concentrate on the players that you have picked to maximise their worth to the team. Easier said than done. The most basic difficulty about becoming self-reliant is overcoming the fear of failure or fear of other people's judgments. And I think this just comes with experience. Certainly I wouldn't say I suffered from this, but being in the national profile, it is difficult when people are assessing your decision making. And if you don't win a game, obviously everything with hindsight looks incorrect. And I guess the older you get, the more experience you get, the less that matters, and the more you trust your judgment. You realise there's always going to be differences of opinion, and you're certainly not going to please everyone all the time. Successful leaders have a strong sense of internal accountability. They tend to be positively optimistic, self-confident, have a core self-belief. So I think it's the accountability to yourself that's the really important factor here. So if you look yourself in the mirror and think, did I do the right thing? Because often when you make a decision, not everyone knows the full facts. In fact, very few people know the full facts. There's probably only you as the leader who understand the bigger picture, and people don't understand that, and you can't necessarily explain that. So it's being accountable to yourself and trusting your own judgment. And it's a mindset. You know, you've got to make sure that if people are talking negatively about a decision that you've made, it doesn't allow you to become inferior. Again, trust me, I've been there, and it is difficult to be when you're getting criticised for a failure or a performance or a decision, and you need very strong self-belief and self-reliance to get through those moments. And I guess that's the point about leadership. It is lonely at the top. There are many situations where there is no one else to turn to but yourself. And there you've got to trust in yourself. And ultimately, you must take responsibility and accountability for the actions and the consequences of your actions. And, again, this happened to me at the highest level. And, it was on my watch. Therefore, I had to take responsibility. And I can tell you it was lonely. But I think I'm a better leader now for the experience. And it certainly hasn't broken me. And again, I come back to the point, which I made before, which is this is about being true to yourself and accountable to yourself, and understanding that there's a lot of people with opinions out there, and you don't need their approval or acceptance. It's accepting yourself as a leader and delivering to the very best of your ability, whilst admitting that not everyone gets it right all the time. So I hope that's made some sense. I can certainly relate to it very much, and hopefully you can. And my final message is: back yourself. You've been put in a leadership position for a reason. Back yourself, back your self-belief, and be self-reliant.